Hi, everybody. I was telling somebody that this is the worst produced show on the internet, and no one would listen to me. And now it's something I have to prove every day. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle. This is the Stratosphere Lounge, and I suppose most of you know that we had mentioned that we were going to have a special guest on the show for the first time ever. It's never happened before. And I know this is going to be very, very disappointing to all of you because I do have to report some bad news. I'm afraid Lyda is, in fact, here. She was able to make it. So, we'll just do 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to say we did it, get it on record. And then we don't have to worry about it. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the fabulous city of Tijuana, Mexico, my friend, Ms. Lyda Louden. It's going to be a bit like a road trip in a. You can move forward, darling.
Oh.
It's going to be a bit like a road trip in a Winnebago. As the show goes on, I'll say we need to do something, and Lyda's going to complain about something, probably that her Starbucks isn't up or ready, and then I will say, "Don't make me turn the show around," and then Lyda will make some sort of snippy comment behind my back, and it'll be just exactly like going down to the to visit Aunt Marty's house on the Pennsylvania Freeway. Good to have you here.
Yeah, I know.
Excuse me, just one second. We had a little creative differences here that we just had to sort of get a little sorted out. Okay, so anyway, here we are with these idiots. We got the Stratosphere Lounge show here today. Now, just so you know, we landed at the airport about 45 minutes ago. Raced over here. Didn't even have time to pull the questions, which, as you well know, this is the worst produced show on the internet.
Or get my coffee nut, by the way.
She got her coffee. She's complaining about things that didn't happen.
I got my coffee. We didn't get my coffee.
She has to have somebody.
I had to walk there.
I can just hit the stop button. So we're going to pull the questions kind of out of directly off the Facebook page because we haven't seen them yet, and that's what we like about this show is the spontaneity and the fun and the giggles and all that other stuff. All right, so let's see what we have. It's probably going to be another all-teaming show here, but guess what? They've told me I can update my Facebook page, but I'll do that later. So let's see what we have for our questions today, because we've got the Millennial Edition of the Stratosphere Lounge. This is episode number 71, which is pretty shocking if you think about it. 71 episodes is too damn many episodes, I think.
Couldn't be more.
Yeah, it's going to be a long night. All right, so we're going to take a look at the questions in order of ranking in terms of which ones were the most popular. And the first question out of the gate comes to us from Doug Saxum. Maybe Lyda can answer this. What does Bill Whittle do to combat, or rather manage, stress? Bubble baths?
Bubble baths? Is it a multiple choice
Bubble
question?
baths, workout. Let me just give you a quick workout, Judd. I was sitting there in a restaurant with a friend of mine named Ron Smith one day. It was probably 20 years ago. And Ron turns to me and he goes, "Hey, man, have you been working out?" And I go, "No." He said, "No, I didn't think so." Workout, punch hippies in the well, he said someplace, but in the face. No, I don't do any of those things. I usually fly, but I have to tell you, flying today was just stress. It was a stress pill. Getting down there was a little bumpy, a little warm, and God knows it wasn't worth the effort of the trip. Flying actually helps warm the lights up a little bit. See, we can do that. See, look at that. Check it out. Watch it.
Oh, you show off.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Go
pretty
back.
cool.
I look tanner in the other one.
You want the bluer?
No. The
Warmer?
oranger. Because then I look like I'm actually tan. Like I'm not,
This
an
is the
albino.
feedback, though. That's the main thing. Yeah. This is our natural skin colors here. You know, this show is going to be interesting to two people. There's only going to be two people going to be interested in this show. And that's going to be the two of us.
Well, I know you, but who's the other one?
Yeah. I've not seen any comments actually moving tonight either, which is a little surprising. Oh, there we go. Okay,
No,
good.
I'm
There we go.
speechless.
Got it. All right, so what do I actually do to relieve stress? I don't actually relieve much stress, to be honest with you. Flying actually helps. The problem with flying in Southern California is as it gets warmer and warmer and warmer under that bubble canopy, it gets less and less fun. Winter's fun. We went for a ride to Santa Barbara in clouds, and that was a blast. You have to admit that was a blast.
That was so fun.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That was crazy.
But without the clouds, it can get pretty warm under there. And the problem with the airplane, as I said, it's so slow. I've been just about everywhere in it. So we were just down in San Diego County and took about an hour and a half to get down there, an hour and a half to get back. Hey, we get the live comment. Somebody wants to know if Dr. Gina's watching.
I don't know. Dr. Gina is a nervous wreck, though, because apparently she was sending her baby into the sky in an aircraft, which is so rare. You know, I never travel or anything. I just stayed home and knit. But
You know what? She's sending her baby into the sky in an aircraft piloted by, me. That's a whole
well,
different
that
animal.
shut her up when I said that.
I'm trying to get the levels up a little bit better there, guys. Seriously, though, honestly, Doug, flying helps, but I don't get to fly as much as I would like. Comedy helps. I watch a lot of comedy. Mitchell and Webb have taken 5 years, put it back on my life. Those guys make me laugh. But there's that, and Hulu. I think the next. I don't know if it's going to be the next one, but we shot an afterburner about Lost in Space, and going back and reliving my youth, which was only just 5 or 6 years ago, is really kind of a fun thing to do too. So there's that. What do you do to relieve stress, Lyda? Nobody really cares.
See, I know. I drink coffee.
That helps.
That helps.
Really?
Actually, then I just kind of get clammy. To relieve stress, honestly, makeup. I know it's going to come as a shock to you, but
Really?
yeah, doing makeup is the best stress relief in the world, because then you're like, well, everything might suck, but at least I look good.
Why aren't you wearing any makeup tonight? If putting on makeup gives you such a real
Oh yeah,
feeling
this is all natural. Everything,
I actually find that putting on a lot of makeup relieves stress for me too. A lot of times, makeup or something lacy or pretty.
When you put on makeup, it relieves my stress too.
I'll go home and find something sheer. Yeah, we're not going to go there anymore.
You look great in sparkles, by the way.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I don't know. I would have thought that putting on makeup would actually be a stressful thing to do.
Thanks. Probably for you, it is.
Yeah, it is. I just lathered on with a trowel. But seriously, I'm actually really kind of interested in that.
Well, that's one of so many things I do to relieve stress.
What else?
Well, I have my cat who hates my guts and makes me feel like I'm a horrible person.
My cats love me.
Well, your cats don't love you, Bill.
No, my cats love me.
Cats don't have that capacity.
They do. They love me. My cats love me. They're really extraordinarily generous creatures.
Well, my cat, I swear he wants to kill me. But petting him is very stress relieving. I love him. So,
That's actually true. That's actually physiologically true. They found that petting a cat actually lowers your blood pressure by 25-30%. And a dog doesn't do it. Mm-hmm. It's the purring. It's something about that. It's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. Mark Twain had a soft spot in his heart for people who could make a cat purr.
Oh.
He told me personally. We went to school together.
Back in your childhood.
I have to tell you, Doug, one thing I should be doing more of is exercise. And if you guys saw the episode last week, one of the nice things about getting the new office space is we have we're going to have room to put an office, exercise machine in there. I spend 60% of my week watching a progress bar, so I can just hop over and get a little workout in. I don't want to get too buff because then it'd just be too intimidating. But just a little bit.
You better watch that. Be really careful.
Okay. Let's see, moving on. Josh Barnes says, we are often told that we must influence the culture before we may return to the America we want. Not all of us can make movies or get into the music business. Paying off school loans is more of a priority at the moment. What practical steps would you suggest for those of us who wish to influence this culture that has been taught to actively marginalize us? I have something I want to say about that, and then actually curious to know what you have to say about this. It used to be that if you wanted to do something in the culture, you had to have like a recording studio or a newspaper or a TV studio or some kind of gear, right? And then when I started writing, I could have done it on Blogspot for absolutely free, but I ended up buying a domain name for $30 a month. And so I was able to get the word out there to anybody in the world, and then it was just a question of the work being good enough to get some attention. And Glenn Reynolds and a bunch of other people did the links, and next thing you know, here we are.
Insta launching.
Yeah, insta launching, exactly. So that means that it's not what it used to be. You can you can go out and make a video that gets millions of views. 1 million views, 2 million views is a big number. I mean, that's an actual real number today, especially in television. So it's a lot more accessible than it used to be. It costs nothing compared to what it used to cost to.
Well, it doesn't necessarily require reaching mass amounts of people either. I mean, culture change starts on the local level, much like politics. But if you, quit supporting the people who are corrupting the culture and start, promoting and supporting and listening to the people who are positively influencing the culture, that's, I think, the first way to have an impact on the culture. For example...
Boycotting and stuff.
I don't really believe in boycotting as much as, who are you posting about? Who are you talking about? Who are you listening to? Whose music are you buying? That kind of stuff. Boycotting is so severe. And if you walk into a room and say, oh, I just boycotted Jay-Z, everyone's going to go, okay, whatever.
And who knows and who cares, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not going to miss the money. Do you think it's actually better to buy stuff? I think it's probably better to make an effort to buy stuff that you like rather than not buy stuff that you don't like. Because revenue is revenue, and nobody knows how much revenue Kanye West doesn't get because he's a jerk. We only know how much revenue he does get.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing about culture change is that for so many people, it's become all about what messages are in movies and what messages are in music and promoting these bad ideas, where we've gotten away from the artistic aspect of art. It's become, what are you trying to communicate? What's the hidden message in this? Whereas if we go back to an appreciation for just sheer talent and sheer art, instead of trying to make it about promoting some idea, whether it be feminism or whatever, that's a very common, or even trying to, the best example I can think of is that Same Love song. It's like...
Yeah, right. That was the one about the guy who wrote about his gay uncle or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Art is what we're losing. We're losing the art, and we're losing the good messages as well as the arts, and it's becoming just how much corruption can we use. But there, a lot of other songs are about worse things than, Saint Love, obviously. There's rap music. I hate to always go back to rap music, but
let's talk about that for a second. Can you step closer to the recording machine?
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is that my seat is about 4 inches lower than yours.
I take up too much. I take up too much space in the culture, not just in the studio.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so seriously, you sent me a link not too long ago about rap and how just this one particular thing was just like the end of the world, right? Was it about stripping or prostitution or something or?
Well, what video are you talking about?
You sent me the link. Remember, you said this is the end of the world. This is this is where we're headed. Remember, you sent me that hip hop link.
It's probably a Kanye West song.
Probably was.
I don't remember that.
Okay, so do you think? Because here's the thing. All right, here's the thing. Ever since the Israelites marched around Jericho, there was a sergeant there that said these kids with their trumpets, this new generation is just a bunch of weaklings and losers. When I was a boy, we used to hack the walls down with a bronze sword, this blowing the trumpets down thing. So every generation has always thought that the next generation is kind of, degenerate and they're not as good and the music wasn't as good. And,
degenerate.
Well, you can't go down there forever. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like this goes back. This, I guess, is just part of life. But one thing that's really kind of interesting about the culture, it's almost like a qualifiable thing about the culture, is if you look at the musical score from Scott Joplin, and then we'll just go to black musicians, for example. You look at Scott Joplin's musical score for Solace, let's say, and then you look at the musical score from Thelonious Monk, and then you look at the musical score for a hip-hop tune, and it looks like a beautiful flower garden of notes, and then there's a beautiful, other one's another kind of all these fugues and things, and then hip-hop is like ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong. I mean, there's real actual evidence that it's going down. Dong, 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 dong. I'll lay down some.
Keep the day job.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, it has gotten simpler artistically, musically. It's not even music really anymore.
We're losing the music, and it's becoming about just communicating something. And usually, it's not something valuable. Usually, it's trying to communicate how cool I am to the largest amount of people possible.
That's really it. Yeah, it's not about anything transcendental or
No.
important.
No, it's not about honoring the art. It's not about creating something that's artistically revolutionary. It's about look at this life that, it's all about me. Look what I accomplished for myself. You know,
So it's all swag and YOLO, basically.
it's it's all swag and YOLO and ego.
For those of us out there who are not tuned into this thing, swag, as you probably know, is swagger, and it's fully hilarious to watch kids who are trying to graduate high school justify the fact that they're getting Fs and they can't. They're me fail English. That's impossible. Just dumb as a box of hammers, and they won't deny that they're idiots. They won't deny that they can't write. They won't deny that they can't read. But they say, "I got swag, so what difference does it make? I'm living a great life, so what difference does it make? I got swag, got swagger, got attitude." That's the main thing. Is I look cool and I'm cool in front of my friends, and it's not cool to be smart anyway. So why do I need to be smart?
Oh no, being smart now qualifies you as a geek, unfortunately, and that's culture, and that's what we're losing.
So, Josh, I think this goes to something we were talking about. Maybe it was last week's episode, but it's like somebody said, how do we make manhood cool, and how do we make this idea of these kind of conservative values cool? And I think the first thing you have to do is you just have to kind of own them, right? You have to own them, and it's like, yeah. You're one of those right-wing Tea Party conservatives. Yeah, I'm one of the guys that can fire a rifle, and I drive a fast car, and I have my own airplane. I work my tail off, and I'd like to have houses, and I want to do all these other things. Go out in the town. You know what I mean? It's like you are the guys. That great line from Gutfield. Your whole life is what, you progressive weenies. It's all about raising money for the Guatemalan water snake. Honestly, I mean, it's like isn't it more badass to be a pistol packing, fast car driving, airplane flying, carbon burning individual.
Carbon burning.
He-Man? I mean, you gotta own it, right? I mean, there's so much of this conservative values they just have us just running from. It's like, you guys are like, you're like in favor of war and stuff, and it's like, well, we're not really in favor of war. It's just like, hey, I'm in favor of war when war is important. There was a guy named Curtis LeMay. Curtis LeMay was the guy who got the bombing campaign in World War II going in Europe. World War II was a big fight that happened back before you were born.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before I was born too.
You were there.
No, I wasn't there. I was too old to fight. So Curtis LeMay was got the 8th Air Force going in Europe. Then he went over to Japan in 1944-45 and got the Pacific bombing going, and started leveling those Japanese cities with firebombs. And Curtis LeMay was the guy who was pushing for the atomic bomb. And then Curtis LeMay is the guy who's pushing for the nuclear deterrent, and he wants the missiles. And Curtis LeMay was the Strategic Air Command. Okay, after World War II, when they reorganized and made the Air Force its own branch in 1948, and it was Strategic Air Command, Tactical Air Command, Military Airlift Command. So Curtis LeMay is the biggest, baddest dog in the world, right? He's just, he's on a chain, and it's like the successive presidents are threatening. And we don't have to deter people. We're not weak. Basically, what Eisenhower and Truman and these guys are saying is, look, I'm a decent guy. I'm a civilized guy. But for God's sakes, don't push us too much because I may have to let LeMay go. And you don't want that to happen. So you know what Curtis LeMay said when he was in charge of the Strategic Air Command? This is the kind of thing I'm talking about exactly. All that just to say this. The motto of the Strategic Air Command was, peace is our profession. And somebody asked LeMay about the motto
awesome.
of this. Somebody asked LeMay about the Strategic Air Command, and Curtis LeMay said to the reporter, he said, "Peace is our profession. War we just do for kicks." Right. So this is the guy who's in charge of like nuclear bombers for the United States, and he said, "Yeah, war is something we do for kicks." Now, I think LeMay actually liked war. Patton certainly liked war, but I think it's really important if you're going to be deterring these communist aggressors, which is always been communist aggression, you got to have a sense of like, not only are we ready to fight, it's like we really want to. The president should be holding like the reins of the military. The president's position when he's talking to like Vladimir Putin should be something like, Vlad, look, dude, we can have a conversation about the Crimea, but seriously, you're going to have to get your guys back behind the line because these guys they're about to slip the leash. And I don't know how much longer I can hold them back anymore. But that's not what we have today, right? Now we've got this kind of, we went you gotta have this kind of thing. Why are we getting all these ads all of a sudden? We didn't have ads for years and years and years, and now we're getting these damn ads back. Anyway, it goes to some people, but not to others. So, and it doesn't show up on YouTube, so we're just going to ignore Mr. Peanut, the Planters Peanut freak. It's getting trippy out there. Anyway, so I know it's kind of roundabout way, Josh, but if you really want to know what you can do about the culture, as Lyda said, you can start small and do little things. And doing little things is just living your own life and be an example to people. But I think you got to own these things, right? You got to own it. It's like, oh, so what? You're like, you're like one of these squares that is like against Miley Cyrus twerking and all this other stuff. Like, I don't much care if Miley Cyrus twerks and all this other stuff. But if girls are having sex at 13, right?
That's never a problem.
That's a problem. And it's not a problem because I'm so huffy about it because I can't imagine it. It's like, no, it's a problem because if this girl's pregnant at 13 or 15 or 17 or whatever, her life is over. In terms of, certainly her options are way down, right? It's like, I'm not doing this because I'm a dick. I'm doing it because, she should have a life. It's not about that. It's about giving people a chance to have fun. How's she going to go out and have fun? How's she going to go out and party, right? If she's got 3 kids. She can't do it.
Well, people think that the people who want to change the culture and who think there's a problem with Miley Cyrus' behavior, for example, everyone thinks that that's these stodgy conservative types who aren't in touch with modern culture or anything. But really, it's normal people who have a problem with the fact that culture is teaching this generation to destroy itself.
That's right.
We're saying
to destroy itself. Just call it that. That's because that's what it is.
That's absolutely what it is. Piece by piece, we're destroying ourselves. We start on the base. Where did cultural corruption start? Well, sure, there was a sexual revolution that I know. I'm sorry, I'm not loud enough. The sexual revolution that I would say was the beginning of the cultural breakdown. But we're taught that at this point in culture, we're taught that we're automatically spectacular. We're automatically people who are every single person is amazing and outstanding and spectacular. And we don't have to get an education to become spectacular. We don't have to accomplish anything to become
Right, that's it. Yeah.
We just are.
That's what swag is, right? It's like, why do I have to know how to spell or read or write or anything? I'm awesome and...
I don't need to know how that's for everyone else. I'm basically a god. And then they sit back on the sofa with their bag of Cheetos and turn on Gossip Girl, and that's how they spend their afternoon. But eventually, I'm going to be the most famous, incredible, magnificent person you ever met right after I finish this episode of Gossip Girl. Not that anybody has a problem with Gossip Girl.
No. You and I have had that conversation before. That's a really great point, Lyda. That's really it, right? Is the sense that I've been, I pretty much every week all I do is bitch about the self-esteem movement. I mean, it's just I'm like a broken record with this thing. But that's really what it comes down to, right? This belief that I'm going to be awesome, and it's not just that I'm going to be awesome with my friends. It's not just like I'm going to be the most popular person with my friends, because you can all be popular and poor at the same time.
Or I'm going to accomplish something
But
valuable.
That's it, right? That's it. I'm going to do something amazing, and I'm going to have a great car, and I'm going to have a nice plane.
Amazing for myself. Not I'm going to make a change in the world. I'm going to positively impact the world. I'm just going to be famous and awesome and rich somehow, someday. It's going to happen.
Somehow, someday. Right. But meanwhile, we're going to sit around, open the Cheetos, and just have another night and sit around, smoke dope, and watch Gossip Girls. So what do you think's going to happen? Because I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's 10 years younger than me. That make him Gen X. And he was working at VH1. I had this conversation on Stratosphere not too long ago. But he was working at VH1. And he was probably about, I don't know, he was probably 35 at the time, and I was 45 at the time. And because he was working for MTV Networks, he had all this incredible data. And he said 20 years ago that something like 60% of Generation Y, which is the group ahead of you, 60% of Generation Y thought that they were going to be famous.
I think it's actually 90 now.
It probably is 90.
Actually, I saw that statistic.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? You can believe in this stuff when you're 18, 19, 20, 22, 25. You can sit around even into your probably late 20s, maybe even into your 30s, and think, yeah, any day now I'm going to kick this thing into gear, and I'm going to be famous.
Now, it's going to just happen.
But there's going to come a point. There's going to come a point when people your age and around your age are going to be old enough where they're going to realize, no, this isn't going to happen.
It's going to be really big and rude and horrifying for them.
Horrifying.
And that's where they start destroying their lives. Because when you realize that you've just existed and wasted your life and lived on this lie that you are somehow godlike and incredible and outstanding and fame-bound and wealth-bound. But you haven't been told that you're going to have to work really freaking hard if you want to accomplish any of that. When you realize that that's all been a lie, most people don't have, I don't think, what it takes to say, wow, this is my fault. You know, they're going to take it out on other people.
They are going to take it out. They are going to take it out on other
people.
people.
My stupid freaking parents just patted me on the head every time I did something wrong and said, oh, you'll figure it out because you're amazing. And my teachers just patted me on the head and said, oh, you'll figure it out because you're amazing and you're special. And then culture said to me, you're amazing, you're outstanding, you just by essence of existing are an amazing work of art. And then when you find out that that's all been one big lie and you've actually wasted your life by believing these lies, really bad things are going to happen.
So what do you think there's like any hope for like the cold water in the face treatment? I mean, let's say we run like we're going to run like Bill Whittle Academy or something awesome like that, which I'll get to tomorrow after I'm done with the Lost in Space marathon. Hey, look, there's a WKMP Cincinnati marathon. I was going to write a script, but how do you walk away from this? No, but seriously, what if you took a bunch of people your age, right? And you got them out of the rubber room and put their devices away for a minute, and you basically said to them, listen, you have no chance of doing anything. I know this is coming as a big shock, and I know that this is really causing you to have a visceral kind of reaction. But on some level, you probably know it's true. It's not too late for you. You're still in your 20s. You're still a teenager. But now you're going to have to work much, much harder than you did before. Mm-hmm. In fact, you're going to have to work a lot harder than you would have if you'd just been working hard the whole time. Because you got so much catching up to do. Mm-hmm. Do you think 1 person in 10 would listen? Do you think 1 in 100? Do you think 1 in 2? Would people buy that message if you gave it to them both barrels like that?
If you gave them numbers and statistics to back it up and people who they respect giving the message, potentially, yeah. It would also be really interesting to see how people would react when they saw the actual statistics of how much better off they were before President Obama was elected. Because he was such the millennial superstar.
Yeah, that's right.
Young people were like, oh, this guy, he's great. Someday when I'm, rich and successful and a millionaire and amazing like I'm going to be, we'll hang out because Obama, he's just cool. We'll just hang out and listen to rap music and be super awesome together.
Yeah, he does nothing but hang out with common people. That's the one thing I like most about this president.
And golf.
He just wants nothing to do with people. He just wants to hang out in the Hamptons and hang
golf.
out with the billionaires and golf. Yeah. So you think there might be a chance for that? Do you think people realize on some level that they know it's not going to happen, or do they genuinely think they're going to be famous someday?
I think, considering the amount that it's been jammed into their heads repeatedly, from every direction, that a lot of people actually really believe that. But probably somewhere deep down inside the realistic side of their mind, which the realistic side of our minds we've been taught to just throw out. Mm-hmm. We don't need to listen to that. Listen to your heart.
Right, that's right.
Your heart
don't think. That's right. Just feel it. Yeah, exactly.
Just feel it. And they feel like they're probably going to be amazing. And they don't have to do anything to earn it. It's just going to happen.
Terrific. Somebody in the comment section has pointed out that you're rolling your eyes at me when I'm speaking, and it's not like we don't know.
No, you know.
I know. He knows. They know. They know. Those people know. It's all recorded. We're all going to get even. Don't you worry. Here's a question for Lyda Louden.
Oh.
Sarge56 says, Lyda, what 3 things about you would we find surprising? Well, she's not a cross-dressing man. That was a shock to me. That was the first one. That I went, come on! Really? Turns out it's true. She is, in fact, a biological female. That was the one for me, Josh. What other 2 things really just knocked me out about you? I just went, oh, God. You can read. Can't you? You can read.
Yeah.
What does this say?
I've gotten...
What does that say? No, don't read that. That's you know what? Never mind. So she can read. That was a surprise. And what else? You drink grass.
Oh.
She drinks grass. She has chlorophyll drinks. Seriously, it's a good question. What 3 things would people find surprising about you?
Oh man. Well, I'm one of 5.
I've seen your family. It's an awesome family.
It is.
They're really
awesome
great. They're
family.
great people.
It is an awesome family. I don't drive. That surprises a lot of people.
She doesn't drive.
I just don't. It's just not my thing. I don't know. What do you think is surprising? I don't. Every time I open my mouth, you just really have this insane reaction, like, oh gosh.
I'll give you.
You're astounded, nor
I'll give you. I'll give you an seriously. I mean, we've been having fun, and we'll have more fun later. But I'll give you an honest answer. I met Lyda in CPAC in 2010, and she was a lot younger then, and a lot less formidable. And I've always just been amazed at your courage because, I mean, I have a lot of friends and I have all these good people and I have, I've had 10 years, you know. I mean, I was just a nobody sitting in a room writing essays that I didn't know if anybody's going to read anyway. And it took 10 years for me to kind of build this stuff up. And I'd had a really, you know, good, strong background. And I've been out in the wilderness for 30 years and been toughened up and scarred and beat up and, you know, burned and all this other stuff. So when I kind of got into the arena, I felt like, okay, bring it on. But you have actual courage, and you really, I mean, it doesn't surprise me because I the first time I saw you speaking, right? I saw you laying it down for a room full of people. I thought that girl's got guts and she's smart. But you don't seem to have. You don't seem to wear a lot of armor, and that surprises me.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess that's the surprising stuff.
Come on, you can come up with two others. One other.
others.
You don't drive.
I don't drive.
That is odd.
It is. It is. I'm not brave on the roads. That's the truth. What else is surprising?
I'll tell you what's surprising about you. Here's what surprises me about Lyda. Lyda is her dad is a senator, a conservative senator from Missouri. Was a state senator in Missouri. Your dad, John's an awesome guy, great guy. And so you grew up in this conservative household, but you have a lot of things. You do a lot of things and believe a lot of things that most people would consider to be pretty liberal things, at least in terms of like looking at it from the outside. There's like a lot of hippie chick about you. So you do all these kind of cool things, but you don't let that philosophy like poison you. Like you're like super into health and nutrition, right? Most people don't put conservatives in that. Mostly that's kind of like, you know, the
most people stereotype.
Right.
You know, and traditionally, you know, you hear a lot of conservatives are all, you know, bacon is the way of life, and
bacon is a way of life. All hail the bacon.
Well, I was going to go there, but I wasn't going to open that can of worms. But yeah, I mean,
the can of bacon.
I'm not really what you would consider, I guess, a traditional conservative.
No, she's not. She's not a big. You've got a lot of like esoteric beliefs, and because she's actually got her head on straight, she starts getting me to start thinking about these things and actually doing them. Back in the fall, I went to Minneapolis. I love my Minnesota people so much. I love them so much, and I guess it actually was in Wisconsin. Come to think of it, and it was in Wisconsin, and they brought me this swag bag, and it wasn't just a little bag. It was like, I was there for one night in the hotel. It was a gigantic, enormous, huge, enormous bag. And inside the bag were like freeze-dried cocktail weenies, and there was like cheese curds, and there were like big things of M&Ms, and there was all kinds of deadly poison. And I remember thinking, I can't even eat this stuff anymore. Certainly can't enjoy it anymore, because you told me it's like screwing up my it's not my paramecium. I got a few of those.
Keep trying.
The perineum?
You're getting there. Nope.
Is it a P word?
Yeah.
You're
on the right path.
Screwing up my
Go to your brain. Try.
I'm getting a fossilized, crystallized,
calcified.
Perineum. Excuse me. Right? That's what it is, though, right? It's
your pineal gland.
Pineal gland. That's what I said when I was coughing.
Yeah, that's.
But seriously, the young lady actually makes a pretty good case for this kind of stuff, and that surprised me. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting kind of a kind of a, Missouri, St. Louis barbecue kind of throw the short ribs on there and be sure to put extra carbon on there and get me
carbon.
Yeah.
I really hate barbecue, actually.
All right.
But yeah, the pineal gland is calcified by fluoride and other various junk foods and whatever, because fluoride, which is in the water and in food, obviously, because anything that's in water is in food too, pretty much, is magnetically attracted to the pineal gland, which calcifies it. And the pineal gland is somewhat considered to be like the third eye. It's like in this zone somewhere, in your brain. Or whatever.
Creative center.
Well, in most people's brains, of course. I only have half a brain or something, but whatever. It's in there somewhere. And fluoride calcifies it and basically disables it. And it interferes with dreams, any spiritual connection, all the cool, whatever hippie kind of sounding stuff. It messes all that up. But, eating junk food messes up a lot more than your pineal gland.
Sarge 56, that surprised me. That really did. It surprised me. And unfortunately, for those of us who are, I get extra fluoride on my cheeseburgers because I like the way it makes my teeth.
Fluorine.
Fluoric acid, fluorine, fluoride. But actually, the problem with Lyda actually believing in something is she's actually got a pretty good reason for believing everything. And once you talk to her about it, it's not like one of these, Berkeley kids. It's like, why do you believe this? Because everybody else does. It's like you've actually got a reason for it. You actually research it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's persuasive. Damn it.
Well,
I've never had less fun in my life as I did when I traveled with her to Reno, because it's like now I can't have a Coca-Cola on the plane anymore, and apparently I'm going to live forever.
I saw you that Coca-Cola. I saw it, Bill.
That's what the restroom is for. They don't have a Coke detector in there, They have a smoke detector, but not a Coke detector.
You take the Coke in there,
like
the Coca-Cola, and you're like,
don't disturb me. I'm going to be in here for a while. Oh, man, that's good. When I was a limo driver back in when I first got to LA in '88, I just loved Coca-Cola. Freezing cold. I'd take the refrigerator down to the point where it would almost form like a Slurpee kind of a, once it was.
I know exactly what that point is, and it's heaven. I'm not going to even deny that.
So I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning or something, and I'd be thirsty, and I'd go to the fridge, and I'd crack open. I'd have constant 6 packs of Coke in there. It's all I drank.
3:30 in the morning?
Yeah, I was coming home from work, or I'd been asleep for a while. It's a long story.
Then you slept with that poison in you?
It's not poison. Coca-Cola is the greatest stuff in the world. But I would get up in the middle of the night or whatever and be thirsty, and I'd have a hit of that stuff, and I remember clearly wow kind of thing, and I think it would probably kill me now. I drink Coke in restaurants. I haven't bought a Coke for myself at home.
You still drink it in restaurants, right in front of me, like I'm not seeing it.
Yes, I do.
He's like, it's iced tea, trust me.
No.
Iced tea doesn't have little micro bubbles.
You know what? Even if not drinking Coke added 40 years of my life, long enough for so that I could live long enough to watch you recant everything you ever said about me. Even if I lived that long, it would still be worth it to die young by drinking Coca-Colas, just so you know that I'm not doing something because you told me to do it. So you could tell me to do something completely healthy, and I would no, screw you, Lyda, Louden. I'm going to go and do this thing because you're not the boss of me.
Wow, that's really astonishing and pathetic.
It's not pathetic. It's called being a man, darling, and you'll learn about that someday if you ever get old enough.
I don't plan on learning about being a man, actually.
No, you're not going to have a chance to know what a man is with the kind of children that are being raised out there. These man children, weakling pups of these precious snowflakes that, it's like what's the problem there, Jordan? What's the problem there, Ashton? Nobody watched my YouTube video. Well, ain't that a shame? Why don't you go out and get a job working as a mechanic for a few years and then come back and let me know when you know what the difference between...
Precious snowflakes.
That's right. Moving on. Oh, look, it's a question from the Tiemans brothers. I told you about them.
You did.
I told them how they cheated, according to some people.
No.
And I said that's not cheating. They're upticking their own answers. I said I challenged the rest of our Stratosphere Lounge audience, all 4 of them. I said, you need to get out there and form a cartel and uptick your own votes. The Tiemans aren't gaming the system. The Tiemans are competitive, and they're using intelligence to take a look at the situation on the ground and achieve a result, which is the ongoing deification of the Tiemens family. Nevertheless, we have a question from Zechariah Tiemens, who says, is feminism a legitimate political movement that has been co-opted by radicals, or is it a radical movement full of people who think that they're moderates?
Wow, that's a good question.
I can't make any sense out of it at all.
Oh.
I'll read it again. Is feminism a legitimate political movement that has been co-opted by radicals? Let's just start with that.
Yeah.
I
mean, it started out originally as a really good movement.
I agree.
Classical feminism is baller. But then, I saw someone, I don't know who it was. What?
No, it's just, we don't say baller on the show.
Oh, we don't?
It's not a bad word, it's just that we don't use it.
Oh, I don't believe you.
It's a baller term. You can go ahead and use it if you want to. All right, so anyway. No, so classical feminism.
Classical feminism started out, it started out as a good concept. But, yeah, it was taken over by radicals, like a lot of things. And then it got goofy.
Really goofy and stupid.
Similar to the GOP, I would say, in some cases.
Yep.
But, everybody's...
And the environmental movement and race awareness
definitely.
and all this stuff.
Definitely. But, there was a time in history when feminism was necessary. But someone posted on something the other day that I saw. I really don't remember what it was at all. But it was something like, I don't truly believe feminists will be satisfied with the way the country is until women are not only equal, but above.
There's a lot of that going around.
Advantages. And I was like, that makes so much sense. That really summarizes, I think, where feminism has gone. Being an equal with a man, it's not going to be enough. I don't think, for feminists. They're going to have to be put above and given advantages, which is really the exact opposite of feminism. Because it's not saying women are on the same scale as men. They're not saying women are as capable as men. They're saying women need special advantages and help and assistance to be on the same level as men, which is the opposite of the belief that, in power and ability. It's saying we're incapable, so we need, help and advantage. And it's insulting.
I agree, and I think it's one of the things I've talked about before is it's asymptotic, right? So you have this horrible disparity and horrible outrage in society. Let's say like racial treatment of blacks prior to the civil rights movement. You got a real problem here, and so you have a movement, and everybody gets, and activism is increasing human awesomeness, and it's closing the gap, and it's doing all this other stuff, and everything's going up like this. But then once you start to get the big problems solved, like environmentalism, right? It used to be pouring mercury into the rivers. The Ohio River caught fire when I was in high school. When I was a senior in high school, what's his name? That dweeb, who's the tiny little dwarf?
Tiny little dweeb that doesn't narrow down.
No, I know the super liberal used to be the mayor of Cleveland, young guy who used to be a young guy. Somebody's going to come up with it in a second once we get past the feedback. Anyway, this guy was like mayor of Cleveland at age 29, and the river caught fire, and so they start cleaning up the river, right? And the environmental movement's doing great things, and everybody's in favor of it because it's actually important and it's working. And then when most of this stuff gets cleaned up, you'd think they'd kind of go, well, we pretty much got it solved. And you'd think the feminists would go, well, we're pretty much equal now. But no, they have to work harder and harder and harder to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller gains, right? And that's when things get really, Dennis Kucinich, that's when things get really goofy. Because now the only thing that's really left for feminists to do is to like you say, is just
to be given special advantages, to be able to be on the same level as men, which is contrary to the original goal, which was to give women equal opportunity, as men. Equal opportunity being a relative term. The opportunity to work.
The same pay for the same job, assuming it's the same hours and it's the same job. A guy who's running a backhoe should not get any more money than a woman running a backhoe. But guys preferentially run backhoes more than women, and it's a higher paying job, generally speaking, is more dangerous. So men do make more money than women, but they make more money because they put in more hours and do more dangerous work. Mm-hmm. But yes, equal pay for the same job. Obviously, if you don't believe in that, you probably got a problem. But I think this business, especially nowadays, is like this kind of demonization of boys. It's like boys are like being treated in schools today. Even I'm talking about young boys now. These are like your baby brothers. They're like, boys are being boys, and it's like, well, we got to medicate this kid. He's running around. He's climbing trees. He's taking a stick like a gun. We better call the police and lock the building down. Mm-hmm. It's like they're not girls. They're different, and you got to let them go, man. Mm-hmm. You got to let them be boys. Mm-hmm. And they don't get any support anymore, boys. They don't get any support at all. And they grow up to be men. Somebody in the comment section a minute ago put two words up there, which I'll ask you about with feminism and this whole kind of degradation of what like classical manhood is. And the comment was pajama boy.
Oh gosh.
Attractive, huh?
How is?
Do you know
that...
anybody who he appeals to?
Potentially some hipster factions of like deep San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. You all know who Pajama Boy was. He was the guy who came out for the Obamacare website, and he was sitting there on the couch right around Christmas time, and he's wearing a little red footies. He's red and and he's got his little giant cup of tea, and he's got his little look, and it's like, I'm the future of America. It's like, you
he may as
are.
well have been holding an Obama sign that says, "This is the ultimate end of everything." The acceptance and the embracing of the fact that masculinity is pretty much dead. It's dying. It's going away very quickly.
I've listened to you talk about this, and this is one of the things one of the reasons I like you so much. You understand these things, and it's unusual to understand these things, but you get it, right? You understand it. You know. Probably should just not listen to this part, but I got to talk to him. Just go ahead. I have dated like hundreds of women. I mean, I've been out there, especially in the last 10 years, and I have dated a lot of people. And I am telling you, you can open it.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
I didn't hear that though, because my ears are covered.
I have not met. I've gone out. I've dated some liberal women, not too many lately, but some lately, and conservative. I know.
You?
They're hot. What can I say? It's just a weakness.
Occasionally, yes.
But seriously, I'm serious though. I mean, I've gone out with women of virtually every part of the political spectrum, a reasonably large age range, and no matter what they may say to their girlfriends or maybe what they say in college, I have not run into one of them, not one, that doesn't fundamentally appreciate real strength and real, actual genuine masculinity. There's not one of them doesn't like having the guy walk on the street side of the traffic. There's not one of them that doesn't like getting the car door for them. There's not one of them that doesn't like the sense that I can depend on this guy. And if somebody makes a pass at me, then he's going to respond. And if somebody actually puts a hand on me, then he may not win the fight, but he's going to get in the fight, And no matter how much you get into this kind of, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, I've never run into a woman who actually believed that, not once. And they don't know why men are so weak. And LA is like the center of the universe for this, for this kind of dysfunction. In LA, in Los Angeles, men are weak and women are crazy. And crazy women make the men weaker, and weak men make the women crazier. And it's this little feedback loop. And there's no one willing to step in there and just basically throw the circuit breakers and just say, no, we got to stop this. And I'll tell you out there, those of you watching, those of you young men who are watching, the person that's going to have to throw the circuit breakers to put an end to this nonsense, it's not going to be the women, boys. It's going to have to be you. I've heard occasionally, I'll hear people say, oh, women have really, they've just really emasculated men and it's really, really tough out there. And my response to that is, nobody's emasculated me because I don't let people do that, right? I don't let people talk to me that way. I just don't let them. And you have really no one to blame but yourself, I think, if you're a pajama boy. You can say that he never had a strong dad, and you can say he never learned all these things. Fair enough. But on some level, he's biologically wired to want to do the right thing. He's wired. And that has to be suppressed. And that's why I think we should open up an academy, and I should just do an academy for young men and young boys. It's like, hey, it's real simple. You got to step up. You're probably going to be the one who's going to have to make the move. Let's talk about that, actually, because I don't get you here every week. So let's talk about that. I am seeing out there among younger people more and more and more cases where girls are asking boys to the prom, and women are taking the first, they're proposing marriage, and I don't like it. It's not that I don't like the fact that women are confident. It's not that I don't like the fact that women are not having to sit and wait. It's not so much it's not so much that they're acting that bothers me. What's bothering me is the lack of action on the part of the males, right? That's what's really got me worried.
Okay, well, to respond to this, I'm going to actually let my inner hippie do a little bit of talking, and you're going to be surprised, because there are some things about this that make sense. So it all goes back to nature.
It does.
If you look at the way, everyone has their individual, jobs. If you look at a female lion, she has her job and the male lion has his job. Sometimes the woman has to take over and do the man's job, and she's ready and capable of doing it. And it all functions. They all have each have their roles that are biologically ingrained in who they are. They grow and develop in a way that is designed to enable them to operate and fulfill each of their roles in nature. And it's the same way in the real world. And for men and women, there are things that men are good at and there are things that women are good at. I completely agree with you, on everything you're saying regarding that. Women should be able to take on a lot of men's tasks. They should be able to fill in for the men. They should be able to help and be, the right-hand man. But there should be a co-pilot thing.
And Glenn Reynolds and his wife, Helen, are all over this, because I think you really need to take this to its ultimate conclusion. I just finished reading a book. We haven't had a chance to talk about this yet, actually, but it's a really good book called The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. He wrote it 25 years ago before he became like uber atheist. He was the first genetic biologist to really get into how behaviors are driven by genes. His position, which I think is a really interesting position, his position is Lyda, Louden, and Bill Whittle are not really the essence of life. We're just basically carriers. The stuff that really matters, the stuff that's internal, is the code. It's the genetics, because the genetics go from generation to generation to generation. They're immortal, and it sounds odd. I know it sounds very odd, but you and I are both descended from, and everybody who's watching this and everyone who's ever lived are descended from nothing but survivors back to to the first fish crawled out of the water. Every one of them has been a survivor. And every one of the sperms has been the survivor out of hundreds of millions of. It's astonishing, really. So what his position is, it's the replicators, not the bodies, that are immortal, and that is the essence of what we are. As a quick aside, you've probably got none of the cells that you were born with. I certainly don't. So what is Lyda Louden? If none of this stuff, or what is Bill Whittle? If none of this stuff was here when I was born, what does it mean to be me? It's a pattern, right? It's a pattern. So here's the point. What he's basically saying is, biologically, it is so much easier to be male than female, because eggs are big and complex, require a lot of energy. Sperm, nothing to them. You just crank them up by the millions and the millions and the millions. And it's the fact that it's so much more biologically easy to produce this stuff is what eventually caused those typical male behaviors. It's in the interest of the male, genetically, to push his genes out. If he's going to have his genes go down to the next generation, the smartest thing he can do is have sex with as many women as possible, because all the genes want is to be reproduced. So the genes don't have purpose. But through natural selection, those genes that coded for male promiscuity preferentially were passed down, and those genes that coded for male fidelity didn't. So it's in genetic interest of males all across the spectrum for virtually every species on the earth. The male strategy is have as many children with as many different partners as you can, because your genetics are then going out to not just one person. That person could get killed. Those kids could get killed. But I may have 2,000 kids. I may have 2,000 kids with 100 people. I think like Genghis Khan is the father. I'm not making this up. I think Genghis Khan is the father of something like 18% of the population of the world is descended from Genghis Khan, from one guy. It's absolutely astonishing.
Wow.
Females, on the other hand, because of the structure of the egg and because of what that means in terms of the fact that they are rearing these things, their strategy is find the highest status male that they can and hang on to him, because having a child it basically incapacitates you, and raising children means you can't go out in the woods and you can't be doing a lot of hunting gathering. You need somebody powerful to feed your cubs, basically your kids. So the point of all this is simply to say this: what the feminist movement is doing is they are taking away incentives for males to do the right thing and become monogamous. Males don't want to be monogamous. Males want to be gregarious.
That's really interesting.
And if there's no reason, if there's nothing in it for males, why would they? Why would they stick around? If they don't, if all they do is get put down and no one listens to them and they don't have any authority. It used to be that a father who had 10 kids, that was his retirement plan, and it was his workforce, and it allowed him to go out and get more goats and camels and oxen. You become the bigger dude. It's like, all right, it's a economic pyramid. So he would be willing to make the sacrifice of going around and sleeping around with 50 people to stay in one family because that family did something for him. He got something back out of it. But the more that this whole idea of fatherhood and maleness is denigrated, the more guys are just going, all right, that's fine with me. That's grand. Knock yourself out, baby. I'll see ya. Off they go, right? Off to go to somebody who's not married or pregnant or has 3 or 4 kids, somebody newer and younger. And it's like, there's no reason for them to stay. Why would they stay?
Wow.
That's why we were in the big bucks here at belittle.com. But do you think anybody sees that? I mean, does anybody your age understand that if male aggression and male initiative is being eliminated, then all they really is just sperm donors. And if that's all they are, then knock yourself out, dude. Go out and party. Why would men stay with women once they get pregnant? It's not fun anymore. Why would they stay? If you're taking all the incentives for males doing the thing that they don't want to do, which is settle down with somebody, used to be something greater gained by being monogamous than was lost because we don't want to settle down. We'll agree to get married to women and stay with them in exchange for something better than what we give up, but that's being destroyed like real fast. Well,
yeah, and that's another cultural issue. It really all goes back to culture right now. Look at us, we've barely talked about politics.
I know.
We're two political people, and we've really touched on politics. It's all been culture. Because that's the core of the problem.
Well, you know who the new daddy is, right? The big, daddy now. If you're a single mom and you're one of these people that, doesn't have a traditional view of marriage and family the way conservatives do, still need somebody to take care of you, still need somebody to feed the kids and bring home the arugula, because we don't eat bacon here anymore. Apparently it crystallizes your pineal. But seriously, it's the government, right? It's the government.
Yeah.
That's why we love Obama. That's why we love free health care and free entitlements. So
that's the safety net. And that's what's terrifying about my generation is I feel like we're told, when we realize that all these things that we're told about how we're going to end up are proven untrue, and we find out that we've been lied to this whole time, that we're automatically amazing, we're going to realize that we're 30, living in our mom's basement, haven't really accomplished anything like we thought we were going to accomplish. And what are we going to do? We're going to get on welfare. We're going to sign up for Obamacare. We're going to ask the government to basically take care of us because we haven't done that much. Because we spent all this time thinking we were going to suddenly blow up and be amazing and incredible by doing nothing. Because by essence of just existing and being spectacular.
So it's not government cheese anymore, it's government Cheetos, right? Just keep the Cheetos coming and keep the Gossip Girl reruns on the TV and we'll find a way to cope with our misery.
Mm-hmm. That's the real problem with it. We're just destroying our lives and depending on the government. That's what the trend is right now.
There was one more thing about this I was going to add. I can't remember what it is. Maybe it'll come back to me. Let's skip down here. Here's a question for you. Don Stenberg, asks, Lyda, why are you conservative?
Why am I conservative?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would consider myself kind of a cocktail of political philosophies at this point.
You're too young. You can't be a cocktail of political philosophies until you're 21. You're not allowed to drink until then. You're supposed to just be plain vanilla and take what you're given as a kid.
I'm a non-alcoholic cocktail of political philosophies.
Okay, go for it. So what parts of traditional, we'll just go with the kind of traditional definition of conservative and liberal. What parts of the conservative spectrum do you like, and what parts of the liberal spectrum do you like?
Well, I don't really go very far in the liberal spectrum. I just don't.
I thought you were a cocktail.
Fall in that direction. But there's more in the world of political philosophy than just conservatism and liberalism. And
See, this is the problem with this kid. This is why she's formidable.
well, you know about objectivism. I have some objectivist views, actually a lot, as far as the very like the radical laissez-faire belief system goes. I find myself sometimes relating to libertarians in some ways. Please, everyone, don't freak out. But at the core, I think conservatism is pretty much right for a lot of reasons. From the aspect of self-reliance, from the aspect of respect for history. I think that's the main thing. Is that a lot of times liberal political views are based on one group of people and what's good for them. Usually, the basis motion is compassion. That's what it's all about, compassion.
Yeah, but it's not real compassion, is it? Because it's compassion at the point of a gun. It's like
temporary.
Yeah, it's not even temporary. It's like their idea of compassion is voting to raise taxes so that money is taken from somebody other than them to give to other people. It's not compassion.
Right.
Real compassion is, well, if somebody's starving, I'm going to have to go work harder so I can feed this person.
Right. They're taking into generally, I think a lot of liberal views are based on wanting to help one small group of people and not taking into consideration the mass economic effects, etc. Whereas I like how conservatism basically says the individual has to figure it out on its own, but we want to create a country where the government is put in its place and has one job, and it's protecting the people. And beyond that, people need to figure out their own lives, take care of themselves, and that's how it works. That's what works. Historically, it's what works, and that's what I like about conservatism the most, is that, conservative views are based on historical experience.
Right.
Things that have worked in America and beyond, far beyond, other countries too. What has led to the downfalls of republics, etc. We pay attention to that stuff. I would say a lot of times liberals just think everything that's new and hip and cool and fun and modern and just happened in our generation is what's right.
Do you think if you were to talk to a group of millennials and say, because I remember when I was in college, somebody actually older than me.
You remember?
Yes, I do remember.
Oh.
I do remember. I was sitting there under a tree. Giant shadow on the ground went by. I said, look, pterodactyls, these damn things are just horrible. I wish I'd just get them away. So I threw a rock at it with my sling, and then I went back to scratching some notes in a tree bark with a sharp rock, which is what we used back when I was in college.
Bam, extinction of the dinosaurs happened.
With that said, there was somebody said to me once, they were like, somebody middle-aged was saying, I was saying something, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And they said, well, we said we were going to do that too. Yeah, but we are not going to be corrupted like you oldsters are. And then the guy turned to me and said, and we said exactly that too. And the next thing you're going to say is that no one has ever felt as deeply about issues as you and your generation. Everything that you're learning now in college is brand new and never's ever thought these things before. And we thought that too. And our parents thought that too. And our grandparents thought that too. This idea that there's something new just doesn't happen. People think about, like human history or oh, well, my father, it's 20 years. We've been around for 2 million years. That's a considerably longer period of time. And there really is nothing really new. There's no new transactions. There's no new economics. The only new thing that ever happened was the idea of, individual freedom and individual responsibility and limited government and all that other stuff. But do you think that you could get that message into people's heads? Like, I know you think that everything's going to be different because no one's ever tried this before, but people have tried it before, and people have said exactly what you're saying now. Every generation says this.
I think you could show them. I think that's really an easy point to get across because it's so true. I've had my mom say that to me. I'm like, oh, by the time I'm growing up, we'll be able to not even age at all. And she'd be like, oh, that's what we thought. And I'm like, oh, sure. But then that just repeats itself all the time. You find out that generations before you thought the exact same thing you did. And we thought when we went to college, we were enlightened too, You're
getting better looking, I'll say that. I mean, I thought we were a pretty good-looking generation in the 70s and 80s, but
really
we're
think
not.
my generation's better looking?
Oh my God!
I think we're
have you
better
seen pictures? And nothing, no offense to you people out there, but even if you look at World War II pictures, like World War II movies, or if you look at pictures of Twilight Zone, great example. Great example. I started watching The Twilight Zone from season 1, and this actually knocked me out of my chair. You would watch the Twilight Zone episodes, and you'd see a guy come on, and he looked like he might be in his late 50s, mid to late 50s, And Rod Serling would come on and goes, meet Mr. Miller, 32-year-old insurance. 32? And yeah, he's 32. He looks like he's 60. Even in the 1960s, in the early 1960s, 60, 61, they would trot people out who look late middle-aged to me now. Really. I mean, I look much, much younger than these guys. And these guys are like, he's a 41-year-old man. He's not 41. He looks like he's 70. And if you go back to pioneer times, you see these people that are like they're wizened old men, like they're 39. You can look at like sepia tone pictures, and you can't find one really good-looking person in there. It's not a question of style either. People are getting better looking because we can afford to. We can afford to pick a mate based on looks now because strength doesn't matter, hardship doesn't matter, character doesn't matter, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like we're on the frontier where I'm going to need a woman who can get up at dawn and and grind the corn, and then by 5 a.m. she's got the cows milked, and there's 17 kids and 4 of them are going to die, probably this year, and she's got to be tough enough to handle that, and I might get killed by Indians, and she's got to raise them. We don't have to select for that now. All we have to select for is, that's kind of cute.
That's kind of cute. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good point. I think we're also learning how to take care of ourselves better.
Oh,
I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, we're learning, what harms the skin, what products work to look better. Those products are succeeding on the market, then we're finding better products to replace better products, and we're using them, and that's helpful.
Is there any amount of money that I could pay you to go outside on a beach in California and put one of those triple reflectors under your chin like they used to do back in the 60s? Have you seen people doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about those.
Those cancer concentrators or whatever they called them back in the days.
Cancer concentrators?
But people used to sit out in the sun, right?
With oil, with what was it? Vegetable oil. Vegetable oil.
Bain de Soleil. Bain de Soleil was just oil that was designed to focus the rays of the sun to get you a really deep tan, like that deep.
On tinfoil. With tinfoil and reflective materials to just get as much cancer ray on you as possible.
But even if you put the cancer aside, the UV damage to skin was just, people just turned to leather. Mm-hmm. It's leather. You're right, we're taking better care of ourselves. There was a question here that looked good. Here's one from Brooks Morris. Being a millennial myself, I often found it hard to have a decent conversation or debate with my fellow students over beliefs, politics, culture, etc. Seems especially difficult to pry them away from the idea that the professor is God and what he or she says is the ultimate truth. Lyda, do you agree with Mr. Whittle's strategy? I like this Lyda, Mr. Whittle thing. The meeting of the Rebel Alliance, or is there another strategy you believe could work to pry them away? So I was saying the biggest problem with the Tea Party is the name. And the second biggest problem with the Tea Party is people getting dressed up in the tricorner hats and the muskets and all that other stuff. Because you're asking young people who have no idea who these guys were, who the hell's John Adams, who the hell's Paul Revere. And you're asking them, you're saying, this is the future. It's like, it's not the future. This is 300 years ago. What could this have to teach us? And I had a person in Phoenix, a high school girl, come up to me and say, I want to have a Tea Party meeting at school. What should I do? I said, well, the first thing you should do is not call it the Tea Party. And the second thing you should do is say the Rebel Alliance is going to meet in room 3. And all of a sudden, you get their attention. There's something I want to add to this, but do you think a lot of this is just branding?
Oh, branding is everything to this generation. We're so visual. I mean, look at the way the world looks just walking down the street. We can't get our eyes off of our phones. So if something's going to capture our attention, it has to be better than whatever we're looking at on our phones. Whatever types of we have constant visual stimuli being thrown at us. So we have to be throwing out better visual stimuli if we want to be able to catch the attention of this generation. What she said though about it being hard to capture their attention is absolutely true. We're not paying attention to politics anymore. Politics isn't exciting. Culture isn't exciting. Celebrity life is exciting. Gossip is exciting.
Yeah, see, that's it. Because a lot of, if you go to the GOP leadership and you go, well, we got to get the youth vote. You talk to these turtles, the steel rim glasses and the bow ties, and they think, what they think is young people like Obama and they like Obama because they like his speeches. And I said, young people have never listened to an Obama speech. They don't know what Obama believes. Obama doesn't know what Obama believes. It's not like they love the policy. It's not like they listen to his politics. Young people like Obama because Gaga likes Obama, because Clooney likes Obama, because because the people who they like Obama, they don't go to the source. They've never listened to a State of the Union address in their lives.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. Speaking of that, I don't really know if this is related or not. Actually, yes, it is related. I saw the other day someone posted on Instagram a picture of Stacey Dash, someone who was
God bless
some
her,
liberal
yeah.
celebrity. And I just out of curiosity, because I was doing what I always do on Instagram, wasting time, looked at the comments. And there were all these people who, all they knew about her, they haven't seen Clueless. They didn't know anything about her. They didn't know anything about Obama either. But everyone was like, oh no, you can't like her. She doesn't like Obama. There were about 5 comments I came across, just looking at a few comments, about the fact that she doesn't like Obama. They could never, in a million years probably, say why they like Obama or what's wrong with the fact that she doesn't like Obama in their minds. I was talking to, this is a story I tell actually a lot because I really like it. It really gets, it's brief and it really gets, exposes the point. I was at a party and I said to one of my good friends said, oh, Lyda's like all into politics. She's like super conservative. And I'm like, yeah, so what does that have to do with anything? It had nothing to do with anything. And she's like, oh, well, I'm a liberal and everything. And I'm like, oh, okay. Why are you a liberal? Oh, no, you know what it was? She was saying then that she was going to join the Young Democrats or Young Liberals at her school, I believe it was. I said, okay, cool. Why? And she was like, I don't want to talk about politics right now. And I'm like, you just brought up politics. I didn't say anything about
That's
politics.
exactly right.
And
That's exactly right.
I said, okay, we don't have to talk about politics. I'm just really curious why you're excited to join the Young Liberals. What about them do you agree with? What about them do you like? And she goes, I don't want to talk about this. This doesn't matter. Let's just have fun. And I'm like,
I know people who do that too. It's like these damn Republicans and Sarah Palin and all these, and these Tea Party people are doing it. It's like, well, the Tea Party people are doing, I don't want to talk about politics. Mm-hmm. It's like they launch an attack and then they don't respond. But here's where I thought this question was going.
They can't back it up.
Here's where I thought it was going, and part of it's in here too. And that's the idea that they cannot discuss things. It's not just, this is what really interests me, because it's not just that they don't know what they're talking about. They know that they don't know what they're talking about. What's so interesting and disturbing to me about young people, college-age people today, is they don't have the emotional strength of any kind to face any kind of opposition at all. Mm. At all. I was at Oberlin College, or no, it wasn't Oberlin, it was another college I was doing, and I'd finished my little deal, and somebody said, would you mind, I was, I do my little dog and pony show.
Your little deal.
Yeah, I'm going to change the world, but, who am I to say? So they said, hey, could you come back? We've got like a journalism class from the college, and they're really like into politics and stuff. And would you come back and chat with them? I thought, okay, sure, why not? So
really
I get in there.
Like into politics and stuff.
Well, they were like 12 people, right? Activists, like political activists. And I didn't realize it at the time, but after the fact, I realized they wanted me to walk in there so they could, have their way with me. Which is not something you want to try, by the way, you at home. I know how to take care of myself. So seriously, what they wanted to do was they wanted to pull me in there, surround me, beat me up, because they'd seen all the videos and stuff, and they know, oh, hey, this guy can't be right. So we started to get... So
you're automatically evil.
And I'm automatically wrong, and I'm automatically stupid.
You automatically hate people, especially minorities and gays.
Right. Exactly. So they expected me to come out with the fags this and the and when I didn't do that
in a hat,
and when I didn't do it, they didn't know what to do, and so we started arguing. And this one 20-year-old, I was going to call her a woman, but she's not. This 20-year-old girl, college graduate, postgraduate student, basically accused me of genocide. She said, "You Republicans just want people to die in a ditch. You just want people to die in a street." And you know what I did? I didn't argue. I didn't respond with an argument. I didn't respond with if you look at conservative policies, I didn't go there at all. I turned right to her and I said, let me tell you something, okay? That is unbelievably offensive to me. You don't know me. You've never met me in your life. You don't know a damn thing about me. I tell you right now, I've been poorer than you've ever been in your life. I've been poorer than you've ever been in your life for the longer than you've been alive. You know nothing about me. You know nothing about where I came from. You have no right whatsoever to make those kind of moral judgments about me. We can have a discussion about what works and what's not, but for you to just come out of the gate with this is disgusting and it's offensive, and I think it sucks. I didn't start this argument, and that's the tone of voice I use. I wasn't yelling and screaming. I was heated. Mm-hmm. She bursts into tears, gets up, walks out of the room. And then everybody else in the room starts getting on me. It's like, well, why were you so mean to her? I was mean to her because she called me a mass murderer, and I'm not. Yeah, but you didn't have to be mean. I didn't start being mean. I'm not the person who started being mean. I'm the person who came in here and treated everybody with respect, and I listened to everybody, but she launches attack, and she was not prepared she couldn't handle any kind of a response. And before I get your opinion on this, when I had, a couple years earlier, I had somebody who was like thinking about, putting some backing into the videos, and she had her research team, conservative, had her research team look at the videos, her young people research team, because it was a conservative outreach for young people. And you know what they said about the videos?
Right.
This is what the 20-something, she decided not to do it because of the negative reports that came back. What the reports came back was, they said, well, what we found was that everybody thought that you just seem to think that you're right. I am right.
You think that you're right.
That was the biggest criticism, was you act like you're right. You act like your position's correct. It is correct. Well, but you can't just say that. Why not?
You can't just.
Why not? I think I'm right because of the evidence. If it turns out I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. Did anybody watching those videos show me where you're wrong? No. But you have this attitude like you're right. I have an attitude like I'm right because I studied this and I believe I'm right. But what really mattered, Lyda, was what they couldn't handle, what the 20-year-olds couldn't handle, was they couldn't handle the fact that somebody believed in something. What really gets down to is they couldn't handle the fact that somebody made a moral judgment, that somebody said, my position is better than your position. You can't say that. It's just different. It is different, and it's different because it's better. Who are you to say it's better? I'm not saying anything. I've got an opinion. You've got an opinion. If all the rafts are going from Cuba to Florida, that's not an opinion. That's data. Mm-hmm. That's what tells me I'm right. If the rafts were going from Florida to Cuba to get the free health care, then I'd be wrong. They couldn't handle it. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that? Because that has been beaten out of people, right? The idea, you can't say that the West is better than some culture somewhere else. It's not the West. You can't say that the West is better. I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see these two pieces of art? Which one do you think is harder? David, right? Michelangelo's David, this perfect creature with capillaries carved out of the hardest substance known to man, out of granite, or a wooden mass that somebody's hacked into a basic oblong shape and poked two holes in. No, they're equal. They're not. They're not equal.
Yeah. Well, the only problem with people who believe they're right is closed minds. That's the only problem. But you're one of the most open-minded people I know. Really, you'll listen to even my ridiculous nutrition banter.
But you changed my mind. Mm-hmm. Because you've got a better argument. You changed my mind.
Because I think I'm right. But I only think I'm right because of what I learned from other people through excessive research and learning.
Put down evidence. Mm-hmm. You do the work. Mm-hmm. But don't you find that people can't accept that, right? Well, have you ever had anybody tell you this? I've had people tell me this all the time. I start arguing with liberals, and they're absolutely lost. They don't know what to do. And they start saying, like, well, I just don't have the facts. Maybe just because I don't have the facts you have. It's like, you don't have the facts I have because you don't have any facts. Because there aren't any. And then it's like a denial. It's like somehow I've done something unfair because I've brought evidence into it. And if I bring evidence into it, that's cheating.
That's cheating.
It is cheating. It is cheating for modern people.
How dare you prove your point?
How dare you prove your point?
We can't do that.
That's it. That's what I want to get to. How dare you prove your point? How dare you justify what you believe?
We don't do that. We don't have facts. You just bring in facts like cheating.
So what's really happened to young people over the course of 4 or 5 generations is it's not even that they've been inoculated with, or inculcated, I should say, with liberalism. The first and last thing that has to happen to make people progressives is you have to abandon the idea of proof, data, evidence, or fact. Everybody's got their own truth, right? History is nothing but data, in fact, right? So it's like, well, I think this, well, I think that. Well, your position's no better than mine. Well, if we're going to discuss about which color is best, you're right. My opinion's about the same as yours. If we're going to have a discussion about how fast an object falls in a 1G gravity field, I'm going to be right on this one. And if you don't come up with the same answer I do, you're going to be wrong. Mm-hmm. They can't handle that.
No, because facts aren't important anymore. It's all about how we feel. It's all about feelings. It's about the political view that, People Magazine endorses.
Oh, wow. We're boned. That's all there is to it. We're just boned. Let's see what else we got here. We'll find one or two more because we've done an hour and a half, Lyda. We've done 3 sarcasm overdoses in one show, by the way. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, when I get this thing posted, I will link to Lyda's show, which happens to be on at the exact same time as the Stratosphere Lounge, Wednesday at 6 p.m.
I don't know how that
Sarcasm
happens.
overdose, but it's available. It's available there for you to review, and I listen to them. I actually do.
So you're gonna have to change your showtime. Sorry, you have to move it. It interferes with mine.
Pajama Boy would move his showtime,
I bet he would.
but I'm not moving mine. You can move your showtime.
You should move your showtime.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, enjoy your
You just think you're right.
Enjoy your bicyclist life, little fishy. All right, let's see. We'll find one or two more. Let's find out what we got.
Stop thinking you're right. Gosh.
Oh, I like it already. Sang Lim says, here's a hypothetical situation. Suppose all the conservatives on Earth, having had enough of the liberals' actions, decided to start an exodus to other celestial bodies. Leaving in colony ships, they proceed to terraform the moon, Venus, Mars, and Europa before settling their surfaces. Meanwhile, the liberals settle their rule upon the now conservatively Earth. Fast forward a century. Who would you reckon to be the most prosperous civilization? Let me boil that down and clean it up a little bit.
Please bring it down to my intellectual level.
No. It's a great argument. But here's basically what he's saying, right? He's basically saying take all the conservatives out of society and leave nothing but liberals, and now have 2 societies. Which one's going to be better? So you can make the same argument in the present day. If you basically said, we're going to split the country in half, right down the middle, all the conservatives move to the west, all the liberals move to the east. You've got Eastern America and Western America. One's completely liberal, where there's gun control and free food stamps and all these programs, and the government does everything. And the other one is, nope, limited government and only support for people who really need it for a limited amount of time. Which one would you... And guns are everywhere. Which one would you rather live in? Like, we don't know the answer to that one.
Oh, well, that's a really easy question. But,
why?
This is... Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because history has proven that countries that operate using, primarily more conservative-leaning views, more, Republican-leaning views, whatever, less government, more fun.
So data says things like
facts,
the stricter the gun control, the higher the crime rate, right? And the more guns there are, the lower the crime rate. Mm-hmm. You didn't come up with that on your own. Happens to be true, right?
No, and actually, I think I'm right.
You are right. You are right.
I feel really bad.
And so all of the people, let's just assume this happened. All of the people who are not capable, because I don't think that they lack the intelligence to do it. I just don't think they've got the guts. I don't think people have the guts to face their beliefs and to fight for them or to defend them. They just don't want it. They don't want. This is the ultimate damage that the self-esteem movement has done.
Grit and damage.
It's gotten people to the point where they cannot simply cope. They can't cope with anything other than you're awesome and your beliefs are awesome and everything you believe is awesome and everybody believes the exact same thing as you do, so you don't have to worry about being different. You're all awesome together and everybody's cool and everything's going to work. Mm-hmm. You can't get through that, and it's because of the amygdala. There's a part of the brain I do know something about. I talked about that. I talked about that in the Eloy thing. It's the amygdala comes from. I'm not going to say the letters because we're going to do one Stratosphere Lounge where I never mentioned those 2 letters.
Wow.
But that author basically said that liberals look at the amygdala and they go, oh, conservatives have a more developed amygdala than liberals do. It's a fact. And they say it's the fear center. Conservatives live in fear, this irrational fear of other people. They fear Muslims because they don't know who they are. And I have lots of Muslim friends and they're fine. And these conservatives just live in fear of this and live in fear of this. And they fear all these things. And they're just these little fear-driven little creatures. And I say precisely correct. What the amygdala does is the amygdala processes a threat. I've said this before, just give it to you real quick. What the amygdala does is, this is the anonymous conservatives analogy. You're walking down the path, right, in the jungle, and you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden you hear a rustle in the grass and a crack of a twig, and the next thing you know there's a leopard on your back trying to bite your throat out. Now, if you survive that experience, The next time you're walking down a path, day or night, doesn't matter, you hear a rustle of grass and a crack of a twig, you don't have to stop and go, where have I heard this before? It instantly kicks in. So what the amygdala does is the amygdala is able to connect a sensation. It's a sight, a sound, a smell, all three, whatever. And if something bad happens after that, the amygdala puts these two things together, and depending on how bad it is, the stronger the message is. The amygdala says, next time you hear those things, don't dick around trying to figure out what it is. We know it's bad. Turn to the sound. You'll automatically turn to. So you can't. It's a reflex. You can't stop it. Turn to the sound. Open your mouth and make a noise. Ah! Which calls for help, or maybe it's going to scare the leopard off. You don't have to think about screaming. You don't have to think about it. That's what the amygdala does. And the more you stress the amygdala out, right? If you're actually jumping, if you've got leopards jumping on you every day, you're walking through the jungle every day, trying to stay alive, then if somebody tweets something you don't like, you don't get hysterical over it because you've got bigger fish to fry, right? You're worried about actual survival problems. There's a book out called The Upper Limit Problem. And basically what the upper limit problem says, it's a subset of this, and I really buy this. They say that if you originally had two populations of humans, those that worried and those that didn't, right? Let's say nobody worried, and then a genetic mutation happens, and here's a little group of humans that worry. They stay up at night worrying about things. They're freaks. Well, over time, the leopard's going to sneak into the cave at nighttime on the humans that don't worry, but the humans that do worry about leopards sneaking into caves at night are going to post guards, and they're going to have fires lit, and they're going to have spears ready, and they're going to have a guy who stays up all night, waiting for the leopard. So it is a survival trait that's passed on. Worrying is good for us. Worrying allows us to prepare ourselves for things that we know are threats. Here's where it gets interesting. What this author is saying is, as society gets more and more secure and prosperous and safe, we don't lose worry centers. It's not like, hey, there's nothing to worry about, nothing major. We still are built to worry. So we'll start worrying about what I'm going to wear tomorrow, or the traffic is going to be really bad. And you end up with this kind of reaction that you would have like there was a leopard on your back. But it's just that you're wired to worry. And so the more important things you worry about, the less you worry about the dumb stuff.
Smaller everything else.
Right. So by protecting an entire generation of kids from ever getting any negative influence at all. No one's ever called you a name. No one ever said you're an idiot. You've never lost a soccer game. You've never been punched in the face. But even the big stuff, the little stuff, you've never lost a soccer game. No one's ever questioned you. No one's ever said, this painting you did is just crap, dude. This sucks. But I made it myself, and I put my heart and soul into it.
That sounds like my whole childhood. Is that why I turned out this way?
Your childhood was
my mom was just yesterday talking about what a horrible painter I am.
See, that's why
it's really enabling.
What an incredible gift that is.
An incredible gift.
No, seriously, right?
No,
because
it
you
is,
know it's
absolutely.
not. You know that you could be a good painter if you decided to put work into it.
Exactly what I said.
Okay, so my point is, you've got an entire generation now that has got the same built-in worrying, not just capacity, just brain cycles of worry, and they got to worry about something. But they don't have to worry about leopards. They don't have to worry about being fed anymore. They don't have to worry about being
survival.
hot.
We're taken care of. The government's got our back.
Exactly. So they can't handle it. That woman got up and cried and left the room because the fact that I responded to her assault on me, it wasn't a real assault, but it was an emotional attack. It was a personal attack on me personally. The fact that I responded, she'd never had anybody respond before. I guess what I'm trying to say, Lyda, is no one's ever argued back with her before. She never had anybody argue back. She couldn't take it, had to leave.
And that's why we're screwed.
That's why we're screwed. We're not completely screwed. We've got a couple of things. Let's see.
We're not completely screwed. There are a lot of good people left, but we need good people speaking up. We need cultural change, we need political change, we need to start paying attention to history and learning from it and applying it.
We need to treat boys. We need to treat boys. I'll just come out and say it.
We need some real problems.
I'll come out and say
one thing.
You know how you get boys to become men with regard to their actions towards women? You can't tell them that women are better than them. You have to tell boys, you're better than these girls. And I don't mean like morally superior. I mean, you have to tell boys
better equipped to handle.
You just have to say that you cannot expect them to be in a position of inferiority emotionally and mentally, right, to women, which is what they're trying to do now. Oh, you boys are too violent. You boys are too loud. You boys are too obnoxious. You boys are always climbing trees. You boys never pay attention. You don't share. And you're always getting violent. You're always, no, we got to get rid of all of this. Got to get all of this out of you. So if you're basically telling boys that you're defective females, right? If that's what, 'cause that is what you're telling them. That's what they're being told today. You're defective females. You don't share enough, and you don't talk enough, and you don't feel enough, and you're wandering out and you're climbing trees. And you're so my point is this: if you start out with boys who feel that they're not as good as women, why on earth would they sacrifice for them? Why? If they're not as good as them, why would they sacrifice for them? They won't. They can't. You've got to go to boys, and you have to say to boys, you have to close the doors, basically. You have to say, come here. All right, no girls allowed? Okay, good. Listen up. You're stronger than they are. You're faster than they are. You can concentrate on them. There are exceptions. You got higher powers of concentration. You're more ambitious. You are able to see things in your head. I know there's a lot of people out there going to have a problem with this. I didn't just say there are no ambitious women, and I didn't just say that there aren't any women who have big dreams. I just said preferentially, these are male qualities. Castles in the sky are male qualities because men can afford it, because they don't have to do important stuff like raising kids. They can go off and be dreamers and lunatics and the kind of thing. So you have to basically say to these boys, I can hit you as hard as I can, and it'll hurt you. But if I hit a girl as hard as I can, it could kill her. You're stronger than them. You can never hit them, ever, ever. And you have to get in front of danger. And you have to die for them, because they can make kids and you can't. You're going to have to go out there when the barbarians come down out of the mountains on their horses. These guys that have been working with weapons their whole lives. You're going to have to pick up a sword or an axe or something, and you're going to have to go fight those guys, and they're going to run away. And that's how it has to be. And it's got to be that way because you're stronger than them. You're tougher than them. You're faster than them. And if you run away, you're all going to die. You can't do it, man. This is the obligation you have that comes with the awesomeness of being able to pee off the side of a sailboat. It's really just that simple, right? I mean, honestly, it really is just that simple. Yeah. That's what you have to do. That's the price you have to pay. You have to protect them. People hear that, liberals hear that, and they go, "Wait, are you saying I'm a bad mother because I'm a single mother?" I'm not saying that at all. I'm not knocking anybody down. I'm not saying, again, I had a little resistance to female fighter pilots because I'm a male, and it seems like a very male thing to do. There are some absolutely top-notch female fighter pilots out there. I know a couple personally, helicopter pilots, who are out there in combat. Women fly in these Black Hawk helicopters, and they're as tough and as capable and as competent as anybody in the military, and I changed my mind about that opinion I had based on the quality of the people that I met.
So now you think you're right.
I'm always right. And the reason I'm always right is not because I come into the game right. The reason I'm always right, Lyda, is because I move. Right? When something changes or when a case is made, it's not like I'm here and there's right. I'm going to move to wherever right is. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm always right. Mm-hmm. I'm always right because...
It's not called flip-flopping.
No. It's called, I changed my mind. I'd rather be right than consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I used to believe something, and I don't believe it anymore. I was wrong.
Absolutely.
And I may be wrong now. Maybe there's things that I believe in passionately now that I'm wrong about. I think about this every day. I think about it every day. Used to think differently. Is there going to come a day when you think differently again? Maybe. Mm-hmm. If I could go back and talk to my 20-year-old self, I'd say, 20-year-old self, I'm 4 years in the future now from where you are. No, but I'd go back and I'd say, hey, Bill, I know you think this, and this, but as you get older or as you get more experience and when you start thinking about it, you're going to change your mind. It's possible that if my 80-year-old self could come back to me and stand in front of me, the first thing I would do is, dude, you look fantastic. But after I got that out of my system, the 80-year-old guy may say to me, okay, yes, fantastic, yes. But you may find that these things that you believe about this, and this, you're going to change your mind on. I suspect that's probably not going to happen because when I look back on things like Reagan, I hated Reagan when I was in college. I thought he was a senile old lunatic who was going to get us all killed by standing up to the Russians. And the reason I don't think that's going to happen to me now is because When I believed that about Reagan, I knew nothing about Reagan. I had never read a word he'd said. I knew nothing about history. I knew nothing about Churchill. I knew nothing about power. I knew nothing about aggression. I didn't know anything. Everybody in the theater department didn't like Reagan, so I didn't like him either. So I wanted to be popular with the girls, right? So I didn't know boo, but I do now, and I don't think that I can unlearn what I learned.
Yeah.
Speechless. She's speechless.
Yeah, I'm speechless.
But it's true.
No, yeah, absolutely.
I'm right because I move.
You are.
And you're right because you move.
And the only reason that, a lot of my generation won't speak about what they know is because they don't know what they claim to know. That's another thing I've found repeatedly that goes back to the millennial issue, is that I've talked to young people who love Obama, which used to be most of them. And then, as he's become president, or as he's been president, they've found out who he really is. What was that?
I said president.
They found out who he really is and the things he really supports, and now suddenly they don't like him. I remember during
That's really good news.
It is.
And not just because of Obama. It's good news that people, if the evidence is strong enough, people will change their minds.
That's what I find a little bit encouraging. When he does something that's really damaging, I'm thinking, wow, we're really screwed. But what he's doing is he's embarrassing himself, and he's exposing himself for what he truly is, which is what we weren't seeing when he was elected. That was the reason that so many people from my generation voted for him and supported him. And back in those days, I remember I would post. I don't post a lot on Facebook or Twitter, more Twitter and Instagram, but not very much on Facebook. But I would post during presidential debates because it was so entertaining. It would turn into this huge debate with people talking about all different kinds of stuff. And I remember one time I commented on someone who posted something like, wow, Obama's doing so well in this debate. And I posted something like, why? Or something, really horrible, like saying that I was right, insinuating that I might have been right, or something really horrible and narcissistic like that. And there was this huge backlash of, oh, President Obama, he just wants to help people, and you're just horrible. You think that Romney's going to be more helpful than Obama. Well, all I wanted to know was why they believed in Obama, why they believed he was going to do so well. What about him excited them so much? And I could really never get a straight answer. Never.
There is no answer. It's just a feeling. It's like you said, there's no answer. There's no response to it.
It's that everyone else likes him. Everyone else thinks he's so cool, and all my favorite celebrity endorsed him, so that means he's automatically cool and he's great. With no reason to believe that, they just do. And then they're seeing, though, now he's done so many horrible things. I think the drone issue is one thing that's
right.
Really
and the NSA and the spying and all that, and the internet control, and
exactly,
somebody's reading your texts.
Exactly. That's what's waking up my generation.
Yeah, that's right.
A little bit. They're realizing, whoa.
The only time I see millennials actually on fire politically is when somebody's talking about, like, limiting the internet, censorship on the internet. They just like,
Because at the end of the day, we all want freedom. It's
See, this
all
is
about
what I've
freedom.
been saying. How hard is it to sell this, right? I mean, honestly, there is one team out there that's selling freedom. The reason that I said I try to be right because I move, and I moved from I was never a liberal by today's standards, but I moved from being much more liberal to being kind of arch-conservative gladiator. And the reason I don't think I'm going to move off is because those truths have been here as long as there have been people. These aren't things that may change someday. The fundamental things are there forever. Some things are new. Females in combat are new. And I had an opinion about that was not warranted by the facts. I changed my mind. But most of the stuff I believe in now is stuff that has been proven true for a long, long period of time. And that's why it's stickier. That's why most people go from liberal to conservative, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you learn and you find out the facts, and then you change your mind. And that's what Obama's dumb mistakes are doing to his reputation. Suddenly my generation is saying, oh no, he wants to put drones in the sky that are capable of killing people. Well, killing is bad. Isn't that kind of like war? Oh my gosh, I don't think I like Obama. And I'm like, oh really, you don't? That's crazy. These are conversations that
No, but they got there.
For real.
I could tell because you're doing the thumbing.
Yeah.
All right, so we've done an hour and 45 minutes. We'll do one more because I just happened we didn't pull these questions in advance, and the camera's right here, dear. Let's give Lyda the light that she wants. We're getting to the end of the evening, so let's give her the light that she wants here.
What's the light that I want? Maybe let's end.
No. I'll get you there. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. We'll get you right there. It's kind of nice rose, kind of a Yeah, like that. So kind of
I
whiten
was
it up
getting
a
really
little.
sunburned.
Oh, you like sunburn? Or you want to go more with it?
No. Just
Desaturate a little. Hang on a minute. That's a nice rose color. You like pale? You want it more orange?
Orange. Yeah, take me to like a Snooki level.
Oh no, you don't want to go. You don't want to go full Snooki.
Okay,
See, I look
half
burned.
Snooki.
Let's come down on the saturation. All right, so for the final
Still
question,
pretty-
I'm still
pretty
oversaturated.
white.
I look red. I've been in the sun. I've been flying my own airplane like the steely-eyed missile man that I am. I didn't do a flight sim down there, and I didn't do a little app. I freaking got in an airplane and risked my life.
Didn't
and
do a little
hers too, in the real deal. We'll go back to
I didn't get sunburned though.
because you're in the back and it's because you're weak.
It's because I'm weak.
And you know what? I can't bring it in. All right, here's what we're going to do. I can't do it. I'll do it next week. But here's the final question, because the reason I say it's a final question is it is actually a great, great question. It's very, 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 very simple. And it's from Michael McManus, and he says, are millennials worse than the baby boomers? Well, we have a boomer and we have a millennial here, so we'll hash this one out. Are millennials worse than the baby boomers? I maintain...
Well, I'm definitely worse than you.
So there's your answer, Michael. It's pretty straightforward. Yes, the millennials are worse than the baby boomers. No. I'll tell you what my conclusion is going to be, and then we'll hash it out a little bit. I think the baby boomers are worse than the millennials. And the reason I think they're worse than the millennials... Yes. The reason they're worse than the millennials is because they created the millennials. No, I mean it. The baby boomers were so self-infatuated and were so unwilling to man up and provide discipline and do unpleasant things for their children that they created the self-esteem movement, and that's what has destroyed this generation of millennials, destroyed them as people. Oh. We did it. I used to bash millennials all the time on the show, and somebody finally came up and said, it's not our fault, it's not our fault. And I thought, what a whiny millennial thing to say. And then I said, but he's absolutely right. And again, I'm one of those rare cases, because I'm virtually faultless. Right. No, but that was one of those cases where I thought, I'm wrong. He's right. That may be a whiny, it's not my fault thing, and maybe that's exactly what I despise about this generation, this sense of weakness and passivity, but he's right. They didn't raise themselves. We did. We raised them. We're the ones who decided that we would rather be their friends than be their parents. Mm-hmm. Because our dads, greatest generation, right?
Were really hardcore.
They were amazing people when it came time to save the world and going ashore at Iwo and going ashore at Normandy and flying missions over Germany and being in the subs and everything. They were superb at. But a combination of the Depression as children and teenagers, followed by watching your best friend turn to pink goo, left them emotionally scarred. And when the greatest generation, when my dad was in World War II, he was never shot at, but he's part of that cohort. My dad wrote on the back of his officer candidate school thing, there he is, he's 18 years old, and he's that little tiny face there, and he's 100 pounds thinner, and it's like, what do you plan to do after the war? And on the back of the photograph, everybody wrote, and 3 out of 4 people wrote, I don't expect to survive the war. My dad wrote, I expect to go over to Germany and get killed fighting for my country. That's what they thought was going to happen to them. 19. Wow. That's a wow for you, and it's a wow for me. So I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not speaking for everybody, but I think you can make the case that when these people came home, what they gave us was that kind of 50s like Perry Como, and the music was like, and Doris Day, and Paint Your Wagon, and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and everything is quiet and calm, because God bless those men. They'd seen enough, they'd heard enough loud noises for the rest of their lives. They don't need any more loud noises. They did what they had to do, and I'm not taking a thing away from them. But when they came back as parents, they were distant, and they couldn't really connect to you emotionally. You're not old enough to have greatest generation parents, but I am, and all of my friends, you would hear constantly. You would hear people who were married to these soldiers. People like my mom, for example. This guy would die, let's say, somebody dies, and there's this obituary, and she's reading the obituary, and it's like, Silver Star for heroism in Normandy, and she says, I was married to him for 50 years, and I never knew he was in Airborne. I never knew. It's like, you were married to him he never talked about it. He wouldn't talk about it to his wife. So the greatest generation comes home, and they create kids like me. And because there was this disconnect with our fathers, we didn't want to be mean to our kids. We wanted to be pals with our kids. And because we wanted to be pals with them, we didn't want to be that harsh voice, like, don't make me take off my belt, don't make me count to 3. Didn't want to be that guy. So we spoiled them. And we spoiled our kids, and then those kids spoiled you. And that's why I think we're worse than you are.
Wow. Well, I agree with a lot of that, but the war. I can definitely see how the war played into it, but I can also see how culture played into it. I mean, I know I keep going back to that, but culture is leading up the cause of our parents are dumb and we're just enlightened geniuses, but it's been doing this for generations because that's the best way to tear apart families, and that's the best way to tear down a culture. That's the best way to destroy a country. Really.
So you think it's intentional? You think it's not like there's like a radio signal that comes out of the bottom of the White House now or anything, but that everybody, more or less, the progressive professors and everybody, they know that the family is the last bastion of those knuckle draggers who've preventing us from having our utopia on Earth, and you think that the culture is intentionally trying to destroy this fabric.
I think it's much more insidious than what we really get to see on the surface. Yeah. If families are torn apart, if you can't go to your parents when you need help in life, you go to the government. If you can't go to your siblings and you need help in life, you go to the government. So if you make all those people hate each other, then it's very easy to tear down a country from there.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're doing. Because I've said this before, they would rather have complete rule over smoking ruins than share power in the most wonderful magic kingdom on the face of the earth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Miserable lowlifes.
Proven repeatedly.
And the thing I like most about, there's not much to say about the boomers. They were really very selfish, and I'm the tail end of the baby boom. I'm within the last 2-3 years of that particular cohort. But the one thing I will say about, because I come from like a subset of the baby boomers, just as the baby boomers were moving off the scene, the tail end coming along, and I'm part of the space age. And the space age really only lasted between like 61 and maybe 69, right? 1960, 61, we put our first men in space. And for that one decade between 61 and 69, while the hippies were doing all their things, we're going to the freaking moon. And the rate of progress was so fast. And just every single day you'd wake up and it's like, we've got nuclear power this. And two years ago, we flew at Mach 1. Now we fly at Mach 3. And we used to go this high, and now we go this much higher. We had one man in space, then we had a man in orbit, then we had 2 men in orbit, then we had 3 men in orbit, and then we landed on the moon. And all this stuff is happening so fast that kids like me were led to believe that this is how it's going to go. And I don't see any reason why it shouldn't have gone that way. We just gave up. But we didn't give up. We were ready to go. And Lost in Space was on the air in 1964. And it's a flying saucer that takes a family out to colonize Alpha Centauri. It's the first family in space. And you know what year they chose? They had to set it far future so that people would believe that a family is getting into Marlar spacesuits in a flying saucer and stand in a tube through suspended animation and travel 4.5 light years to another planet. You know what? You know how far they moved that into the future? Okay. October 16th, 1997, baby. That by then this should all be happening.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I don't know if it was enlightening, ladies and gentlemen. It was certainly fun for her. For me, it was, I had a bunch of root canals without anesthesia back when I was a boy, and
I like that.
I pine for those days. We're going to do this again in the new office. And in the new office, when we do the Stratosphere Lounge, we're going to have couch, and we're going to have cameras, and we're going to have reversals, and we're going to have coverage, and we'll do this some more. And I want you. I want you on the very first speakeasy we do. Did I tell you about speakeasy?
Yeah.
We're gonna rent a 90-seat, 100-seat, 40-seat, however many people we get. Gonna rent a theater here in North Hollywood, and we're gonna go out there, and we're gonna invite you, find people to come on down, and we're gonna sit on the couch, and we're gonna talk politics the way we talk politics when we're talking politics among ourselves. And
That's
you can
awesome.
be on the first one. I want you on that first panel. Because Clavin and Zoe and Jeremy Boring and I were going to need some sandwiches, and we can't get up and leave, because if we go up and leave to make something to eat, then people will leave. So we'd really love to have you there. I know you'd be a very valuable addition to.
Yeah.
She's a trooper, ladies and gentlemen. She's fun. Well, I saw one or two people say that was the greatest Stratosphere Lounge ever. That was me. And I think your mom might have had a comment in there. But it actually, no, seriously, sweetheart, it was fun. It was really fun. It really was fun and interesting.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
We'll do it again. Sarcasm Overdose?
Sarcasm Overdose every Wednesday, 6 p.m., whatever time zone this is, 9 p.m. on that other time zone, and there's a couple other in between there. I don't know what time it is there. And then, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, at Lyda Louden. I post when the show is on there with all the time zones, and Lyda Louden on Facebook, too.
And you'll be seeing more of her here. Not me at the same time, because frankly, there's limits to what I can take, but yeah, you'll see her. Thanks, darling.
Thank you.
She's one of a kind, and I haven't changed my mind about that. Felt that for a long time now. So that's number 71. We've done 71 of these things. Isn't that shocking and appalling? But we'll be back next week for number 72, and we're going to get this one up early. We're going to get this one on YouTube. Like I'll upload it tonight, because our operations manager Desiree Gabrielle said we should send this out because the people would love to see it, and so we'll get this one jumping. The last one we had to do in 2 parts because I screwed it up. I did. I turned the drive off in the middle of the segment because it was making too much noise, and that put up the giant white screen with the red question mark of death, and the audio went out, and I had to reboot the system, and I'd already been like 20 minutes into the show.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again for everything. We were joking about this. We got out of the airplane and joking about it on the way over here. But the fact is, I wouldn't have an airplane without you people. Wouldn't be able to fly through the sky and do shows like this without you fine people. So thanks for the support. And we will see you next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.